In this lecture, I'll introduce you to the different work modes, and this is just a casual tour through the different modes to give you an idea of what we'll be working with throughout the course. There are several ways to work with and edit objects in Blender. Now, when you first open up Blender, by default, you're in what's called object mode, and you can see the different work modes in this menu up here. And you can also press Ctrl and Tab for a pie menu of the different work modes. Now, in object mode, you can select your objects and move them around. You can rotate them and scale them, and just do whatever you need to do to get your scene set up just right. Now, if we selected an object that can be edited, like this cube mesh right here, and we press Tab, we'll go into something called Edit Mode, which reveals all of these control points around the mesh, which are called vertices. And there's edges between the vertices, and there's faces that the vertices make up as well. And this is the mode you'll be using for modeling or changing the shape of something. In this mode, we can do things like move the vertices around, and we can even add new vertices by subdividing or by extruding, and we can do whatever it is we need to do in order to get the shape just right. Beautiful. So this is your primary mode for modeling, and I just want to point out that as of Blender 2.8, we can actually select multiple objects, and then when we press Tab to go into edit mode, it goes into edit mode of all the selected objects, so we can edit them all at the same time. In previous versions, you could only edit one object at a time, so this is a huge addition to Blender 2.8. And don't forget that the Tab key is the toggle for edit mode. Pressing that again will return us to the previous mode, which in this case is object mode. Now let me delete one of these. And there's another mode for modeling called sculpt mode, which only works on meshes and no other type of object. To access sculpt mode, let me select this mesh right here, and let's press Ctrl and Tab and go into sculpt mode. In this mode, we'll be able to sculpt on the mesh as if it was a piece of clay. We can add to it, we can smooth it out, we can even switch to one of the many brushes over here, which all have really cool uses. For example, we can take the grab brush there, make the brush bigger, and we can just pull these vertices out like that. We can switch back to the draw brush, add to things and smooth it out. And there's a lot of cool things you can do in sculpt mode, and we're going to go into great detail about sculpting and all the different tools available in this mode later on in the course. But this is a really fun mode that you'll use a lot, especially for things like character creation. Up next, we have Vertex Paint mode, so let's press Ctrl and Tab and switch over to Vertex Paint. Now, this is another mode that only works on meshes. This mode allows you to assign colors to your object's vertices by painting them on in the 3D view. So let me press the N key for the right side toolbar. I'll go to the Tool tab, and here we have some active tool options. So let's change the Vertex Paint color to green and just paint right on those vertices, just like that. So this comes in handy for various purposes, including adding a little color or shadowing to your object that can be mixed in with your shaders when you create them. And we'll be going over stuff like that later on in the course. Now let's press Ctrl and Tab and go back to object mode. You'll see that the Vertex Paint disappears, and I just want to reiterate something I went over in the viewport shading lecture. If you want that to be visible while you're in solid shaded view, just go up into the viewport shading menu here and click on Vertex. And if an object does have Vertex Paint, it will display that as its coloring. Now let's go over pose mode. So this object in the middle of the leg here is called an armature, and this can be thought of like a skeleton for things like characters. In order to pose different bones in the armature, we go into pose mode. And you can get to there through the menu up here, or you can simply press Ctrl and Tab, and for armatures that automatically takes you into pose mode. And in pose mode, we can do things like select a bone and press G to move it, or we can press R to rotate them, or even press S to scale them up and down. So this is what you'll be using to pose and animate your characters or anything that you have rigged. Now the next mode is weight paint mode, which only works with meshes, and this is also related to animation. This is a work mode that's used for rigging. In this mode, you can adjust the influence that a bone has on part of a mesh by simply painting that influence on the mesh. So let me demonstrate with this rig right here. So let's press Ctrl and Tab to get out of pose mode of the armature, and let's select the leg mesh, press Ctrl and Tab, and choose weight paint mode. Now you can see some areas are red, some areas are blue, and some are in between here. These colors represent how much the vertices in that area are affected by something called vertex groups. Let me switch over to the object data properties here, and let me show you the vertex groups so you know what I mean. So here we have the vertex groups created for the leg, and a vertex group is just vertices that are grouped together. We have a vertex group for each bone in the armature. So the bones in the armature have control over any vertices that are in the corresponding group. So for example, you can see that the foot bone here will only affect the area down here. And the red represents full influence. The blue area represents zero influence, so the foot bone's not going to control any vertices on the calf. And the colors in between represent influences in between 1 and 0. Now in weight paint mode, we can actually manually paint and fine-tune the influence of each bone. Let's press the N key for the right side toolbar and head up to the tool tab here for the active tool options. So here are the options for the weight paint brush, including the weight amount. When this is set to 0, then when we paint over vertices, it'll actually decrease the selected vertex group's influence over those vertices. So for example, let me set the strength up to 1 and weight down to 0. Let's say we didn't want this pinky toe to be in the foot vertex group. Then I'll just paint over that with a weight of 0, and that will effectively remove it from the vertex group, or at least the vertex group's influence. So when we move the foot bone, that toe should remain in place. So let me press Control and Tab, go back to Object Mode, select the armature, and Control and Tab into Pose Mode. Now I'll press R to rotate that, and you can see that that toe is now staying in place, or at least the areas that we painted in blue are staying in place, because painting it with a weight of 0 will basically remove it from the vertex group's influence. Now of course, if we go back into weight paint mode and we increase the weight of the brush to 1, then we'll be increasing that vertex group's influence over any areas we paint. So I basically just added the kneecap to the foot vertex group, so this will be affected by the foot bone. Or, by the foot bone. It's not pretty, but I just wanted to illustrate. So weight painting is really handy for fine-tuning your rig to make sure that your joints are bending correctly and things like that. But weight painting can be used for other purposes as well, because vertex groups are used for other purposes. But weight painting, I think, is most popular for rigging stuff. Now the next mode is a fun one. It's called Texture Paint mode, and allows you to paint textures directly onto your meshes. So with that house selected right there, let's switch over to Texture Paint mode, and you can see a brush pops up. Let me press the N key for the right side toolbar, and in the tool tab here we have some brush options. So let me switch the color over to maybe a red, and I'll zoom in on the door, adjust the brush size, and paint right on it. So that's pretty cool. And in this mode, you can hand paint all of your own textures if you want, or just supplement your existing image textures with some extra coloring or whatever. Now let me undo that, and I want to show you something else, something really cool you can do in this mode real quick. You can also use it for something called texture splatting. For example, you can see we have a grass texture already applied to the plane down here. Well, let's say I wanted to paint a dirt trail. Well, Texture Paint mode can help us do this. So let me go back into Object Mode, and I'll select the terrain right there. And let me split the window and show you how I have things set up for texture splatting. If I go over to the shader editor here, you can see how I have the different image textures set up. So I have a dirt texture here and a grass texture here. And these at the end right here get mixed together based on this splat image. And let me show you the splat image. Where is it at? Image editor, and open up splat. So because it's all black, we're seeing nothing but grass. But if we painted some white on this, then we'll see some dirt as well. Now when we go into Texture Paint mode, it's going to be painting on whatever node is selected. So let me go back to the shader editor. I'll left click on the splat node to make sure that's selected. So when we paint on the terrain, it's actually going to be painting on that black image, which in the end is used to mix the dirt and the grass. So let me go into Texture Paint, and I'll change this color to white. And let's just start painting. So anywhere we put down some white coloring, you can see that the dirt is shining through. So this is a really fun way to mix your textures and just add a lot of extra detail to your scene, like some dirt around the bottom of the trees there. So very, very cool. I love Texture Paint mode, and like I said, it can be used to hand paint your own textures, add to your existing textures, or do some texture splatting. Now another fun mode is Particle Edit mode. In this mode you can do things like comb hair particles. So here we've got Suzanne already set up with some hair particles. So let's go over into Particle Edit mode and give these a nice combing. So we have some different brush options over here. By default it's set to comb. So let me make this brush bigger, and I'll just click and drag, and that just combs the hair particles back. Very cool. Let's get these ones hanging straight down, and we'll bring all these down in the back. All right, there we go. Nice. Now there's some other brush options as well, such as length here. You can make some of the hair particles longer, or you can hold shift and click and it makes them shorter. So let's get all the hair particles around the ear a little bit shorter. And there we go. So that's the gist of how that mode works. It's very cool. All right, so now let me select all the objects and delete them. And let me add in a new grease pencil stroke. Now, the last mode we'll go over is called draw mode. And draw mode is a grease pencil mode and simply allows you to draw new grease pencil strokes. So right now we're in object mode, so this stroke right here is treated like any other object in Blender. You can rotate it, scale it, and move it. But if we go into draw mode, we can actually draw new strokes that will get added to this object. So if we go back into object mode now you can see all those strokes are part of the same object. Now, Grease Pencil is an amazing 2D drawing and animation tool in Blender that gives you the ability to create traditional 2D animations and 2D effects. It's super, super cool, and I'm not going to be able to do it justice in just this little lecture here, but we'll be getting into this more when extra content is released for the course. But that's going to do it for the introduction to the different work modes in Blender. In the next section, we'll actually start diving into them by learning about all the tools you can use in object mode. So I'll see you in the next section.